What the report makes very clear is that investment in defence and in the army specifically has a huge impact, material impact on the prosperity, the security and the influence of the United Kingdom. Whenever there's a war abroad, for example, or a fight against pandemic or natural disaster here in the UK, or look at the support that the defence and the army within it did to the Olympic Games in 2012. At moments of crisis, the army is always very popular. But what I think this report does really effectively is highlight that, aside from crises, actually the material contribution that the British Army makes to society, to the promotion of our interests, to the development of our prosperity and to the protection of our people is really significant. And so, of course, none of us is ever as popular as we'd like to be, but the reality is this report gives us some really clear and firm data that will assist of our arguments as we look to, increasingly convince people of the value of the army, most importantly to encourage people to join. 2019, as the report highlights, we had 61,000 soldiers deployed in, I think, 128 countries around the world, which is really significant. And some of that is about deterring would-be adversaries. Some of it's about reassuring allies and partners. And it was a really important part of the Army's announcements through the integrated review that we're going to get much more into what I would call prevention rather than cure. So it's much more about getting out there, working with partners and allies to improve capacity, to learn ourselves actually about what's happening out in the world and improve our own capabilities, but also to deter those who would seek to harm our interests and our people. When politicians want to work out whether the money they're spending is value for money, then this sort of information is very helpful. As I always say, nobody wants to pay more for their insurance policy than they have to. But it's clear that when you invest in your insurance policy, if you understand that you get other dividends back from it, in addition to how it helps you out in times of trouble, then that's a really important thing to understand. But I think there's also a really important message to the Army itself and to all those of us who wear uniform and serve. It's not just about how we defend the country abroad and protect people at home. And, you have to look at the response to the recent COVID pandemic and all that the Army continues to do in response to that, to understand that the Army really does play a very vital role in defence of our people and our way of life. But it's the really interesting sort of financial data that Oxford Economics have brought towards us that really goes beyond that which we've been able to put a wet finger in the air and assert before. What the report also shows is that the Army's got a really significant footprint throughout the United Kingdom, and we're well dispersed to all of the parts of the UK. And one of the really interesting things that it demonstrates is that, particularly in terms of the areas in which we recruit and are based, it is in a lot of those parts of the UK that the government seeks to do what it calls levelling up, to improve opportunity, to improve economic prospects, and to really balance up those sorts of things across the UK in exactly the way that you described. So Catterick is a very good example, but we can go to Scotland, we can go to Northern Ireland, we can go to Wales, we can go to the southwest of the UK, and in all of those places the Army is actively recruiting, it's actively generating income, not just for the serving soldiers and officers, but also for the people within those communities and within the businesses that support the Army. So one of the really positive things the Army demonstrates, and the report demonstrates, is this contribution more broadly to all of our lives and to the prosperity of the UK, particularly in parts of it that aren't necessarily the focus of other parts of society.